election really scaring the heck out of her. You know? And it's no wonder. I mean, it happens at a scary time. The unemployment rate in Washington State is 8.9%, and in August alone, they laid off 1,100 state workers and 200 local government workers. And many of my coworkers, they see the right-wingers monopolizing the airwaves with their fear-mongering and scapegoating and demonizing of state workers, of public employees of all kinds. And this all endangers any hope of achieving any progressive change and helping workers in these tough times. Clearly, the bosses are intent on making working people pay for the economic crisis that they and their profit system brought about.
Yeah.
Vital state services, along with the wages and benefits of hardworking state employees, are all on the chopping block. Just this week, it was announced there to be over 6% cuts in across-the-board cuts in state budgets. Those cowards wouldn't go into session to do it more reasonably. They're just going to do it across the board. And so many of them are in the Department of Social and Health Services. And that will hit the most vulnerable residents in our state the hardest, with cuts that affect seniors and the mentally ill, just to name a few. At the community college, the same level of cuts will just mean layoffs for faculty and staff, and it will be increased class sizes, because what the colleges will do is pack more students into each class because they're going to be short on money, so they want the tuition revenue, or the quality of education will be affected. And at the negotiating table, the state is trying to more than double state workers' health care costs, which would amount to up to 7 or 8% pay cut for low-wage state workers. And all this is just a warm-up for even bigger cuts next session, when the state will face at least a $4.5 billion budget shortfall. All along, the response from the legislature to this ongoing fiscal crisis has been to slash services and apply band-aids that do more harm than good. Yeah. A case in point, last session they passed yet another terribly regressive sales tax on candy and bottled water. This was passed in the same session that they passed a law forgiving Microsoft $1.2 billion in taxes that they owe the state. Yes, a tax holiday for that corporate behemoth that recently reported over $4 billion in profits in just three months. Profits in 3 months.
Say that figure again.
$4.2 billion, oh, no, over $4 billion in profits in just 3 months. It's a routine thing for them. The Freedom Socialist Party believes that Initiative 1107, which calls for a repeal of these regressive taxes on pop and candy bottled water, is correct. Also, Referendum 52, which takes on higher levels of state debt to fund energy saving projects, also is problematic. The interest on that debt will be paid by extending for years another regressive tax on bottled water. I don't think we should pass that either. We should tell the state that it is high time to repeal some of the $96 billion in tax exemptions that are on the books now. Martha talked about, it was similar to what you talked about it with the deferred taxes thing. Preferences, we call that. 96 billion bucks. Many of these tax benefit mega corporations and the wealthy. When labor and the social movements don't demand taxing the rich and corporate profits, we end up with these kind of unfair taxes that target workers and the poor, and in this case, teenagers. This plays into the hands of the Tea Party leadership, which can then attract regular people who are, as the T acronym suggests, taxed enough already. They actually are taxed enough already. Let's not give these reactionaries an open field on these issues. Let's seize it as our own and fight for a fairer tax system.
Yeah. That's right.
And then there's that guy whose name state workers cannot speak without spitting. Who wants to end majority rule in this state. Martha mentioned this one too, which was Initiative 1053 by Mr. Hyman. It amounts to be, I think, a cynical ruse make it impossible to resolve the fiscal debacle in Olympia. The intended result, I think, is that government services will be defunded until they are dysfunctional, and people will become very frustrated with government services, and that will make them ripe for privatization. This is a classic, what they call neoliberal economic policy, privatization, that workers throughout Latin America have been fighting like heck against for decades. Yes, the political weather outside is chilly. This blizzard of initiatives shows we have the best democracy that people and corporations with a hell of a lot of money can buy. Hey, with enough cash, you can hire an army of people who really need work to go out and gather signatures and to put your privatization scams on the ballot. Costco alone has donated already over $1 million to the I-1100 campaign to privatize liquor stores, as Patricia was mentioning. What we end up with is so many of these things out there that the forces of reason, people like us in this room, are overwhelmed by trying to fight on so many fronts. Then, the sponsors of these initiatives can pour millions into more ads to get their nefarious schemes passed into law. Really, we just have to stop the power of big money in our politics. But the supporting of Democrats will not get this job done. That is because job number one for them is saving capitalism and defending the status quo as it results from that. So, in the end, what we get from them is just more regressive taxes, a shredded safety net, and no jobs programs that put folks back to work. Our job is to build a strong, broad-based coalition that brings unions and a community together to win solutions that favor working people instead of the rich and powerful. All over the world, there's a lot of angry, toiling masses out there who have been pushing back against the "make workers pay for the mess" mantra. In the University of California system, staff have organized with students and faculty to fight against budget cuts and tuition hikes, and avoid strikes in occupied buildings. FSP members have helped spark these actions. There have been nationwide general strikes against these kind of privatization and austerity measures and attacks on pensions and attacks on public workers. These have been, general strikes have been happening in many countries: France, Greece, Puerto Rico, South Africa, where they also had a public workers' strike of over 1 million workers that went for 3 weeks. And most recently, Spain, and that's just to name a few. We can raise hell here in Washington State too. And while we're at it, let's raise political demands and take on the capitalist system that causes all this misery and poverty. The Freedom Socialist Party has a 10-point program, you can get it, and it has a 10-point program to address the economic crisis that does just that. It calls for expanding social services, which are needed now more than ever, by taxing the rich and by redirecting war spending to fund those services. It puts forth a no-nonsense approach to providing jobs for everyone, with large-scale public works projects, as was done in the 1930s, and by reducing the work week to 30 hours with no cut in pay to force more hiring. We can do more than just survive this election season. Let's talk about offering a vision of a society without exploitation and poverty, a socialist vision. Then we can inspire working people to get out there and beat back the right wing and start the much more invigorating and hopeful process of building a better world, which is something that only working people together can do. Thank you.